The apocalypse brought relentless years of scorching heat and torrential rains. The system offered 3 skills for my sister and me to choose from. Fixed repetitive action mark. My sister swiftly claimed the latter 2 skills, while I quietly picked up the first one. The world ended with water and power cuts, so I immediately activated my skill. Fixed vacuum sealing all food to keep it fresh. When the zombies arrived, I activated my skill again, sealing all doors and windows completely, creating a perfect safe room that blocked the zombie invasion. But my sister, having violated the rules, was chased by zombies on her escape and had one leg bitten off. She held a grudge and blamed me for everything. She marked the closet in my house, transferring all the zombies to my home. I fought desperately to protect my sister, but she, with a mad expression, teleported us both into the zombie horde. Why should you be able to live normally? If we're going to die, we die together. The zombies pounced, tearing apart all living things. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day the system asked us a question. My sister immediately snatched the fixed and locked the doors and windows, trapping me outside. I watched the zombies raging outside and calmly marked the light at the door. After binding the remaining 2 skills, I disappeared directly from my sister's world. 3 features. Each person can only choose one. The system's mechanical voice sounded just like in the previous life. I looked at everything before me and finally realized that I had come back to life. I actually came back. My legs are healed. My sister's excited voice rang in my ears. System, I want to fix. I glanced at my sister and noticed her eyes were completely different from before. I immediately realized she had also been reborn. She looked at me with weary eyes. Sister, hurry up and choose. She was testing whether I remembered the events of my past life. I watched as she retreated into the house. From this distance, she could shut the door before I could react. Remembering how my beloved younger sister from my past life had pushed me into a horde of zombies without hesitation, I slowly concealed the emotions in my eyes. I looked at the remaining 2 skills and hesitated, saying, System, I want to choose the remaining 2. The system's voice remained emotionless. You may. I bound the remaining 2 skills, pretending not to notice my sister's smug expression. In my previous life, she had violated the system's rules by choosing 2 skills, but she hadn't realized that the extra skills had a time limit. The day my sister activated the repeat action skill in a desperate attempt to escape, the skills suddenly failed, and she was immediately caught by the zombies. She barely managed to survive, but a zombie bit off one of her legs. Heartbroken by my sister's plight, I gave her all the good food and useful items I found, never expecting that, instead of gratitude, she would harbor resentment when I wasn't paying attention. She marked the wardrobe in my room and later redirected zombies inside at night. I know why my sister didn't keep the skill mark in this lifetime, because it has a flaw. When transferring, it brings the caster along as well. In her previous life, she was transferred along with me because she activated her skill, and in the end, we were both bitten to death. Now that she sees me choosing this skill, she doesn't give me a single word of warning. Having lived through my past life, I finally realized how deep my sister's resentment towards me was. So deep that she would rather perish together than let me go unscathed. And now she's back, and I know this ungrateful little sister is completely ruined. Since my sister chose the first one, I'll take the remaining 2 so we can help each other. Hearing my naive words, my sister completely believed I hadn't returned. Sister, hurry and go buy some supplies. According to the weather forecast, I feel like we won't be able to go out for a long time. I smiled. I knew my sister's personality would find a way to get rid of me so she could take over my home. When the apocalyptic disaster arrived, it started with prolonged heat waves and torrential rains. My sister called saying she had no place to stay and nothing to eat. So I took her in out of concern. Now she takes everything in my house for granted as if it were her own. Okay, I agreed to go out and buy supplies, leaving a mark on the doorknob when she wasn't paying attention. After I left, I quickly checked the surveillance footage at the door on my phone. However, the surveillance feed remained blank for a long time. As expected, My sister knew I had installed a camera by the door when I lived alone before, and she had already destroyed it. I could feel my sister turning the doorknob through the marks left on it with a click open and shut. She had left the house, too. I checked the date on the note on my phone. In the previous life, when the apocalyptic disaster struck, it began with continuous heavy rains and extreme heat, causing water and power outages everywhere. Everyone thought it was just a temporary weather anomaly. They stocked up at home but made no other preparations. But no one could have anticipated that the countless casualties caused by extreme weather were merely the prelude, soon followed by the rampage of an unknown virus. The virus led to mutated zombies running rampant, attacking anyone in sight with devastating lethality. Everyone was completely unprepared for all of this. Even more terrifying was that once bitten by a zombie, one wouldn't survive for long, suffering immensely in the limited time remaining. It wasn't until 5 years later, when a national secret research team developed an antidote, that this terrible catastrophe finally came to an end. And only 3 days remained until the sudden downpour of the previous life. I quickly opened my phone map and located all the nearby large shopping malls, supermarkets, and pharmacies. At that moment, my sister sent me a message. "Sis, I used all the money in your bank card to buy supplies. You won't be mad at me, right? I think we should stock up as much as possible, or we won't know how to survive later." Looking at the transaction records one by one on my phone, memories of the past came flooding back as the eldest sister. I adored this sister who was 7 or 8 years younger than me, always giving her the best things without hesitation. After starting college, I even set up mobile payment authorization for her just to make sure my younger sister wouldn't be short of money at school. But now it's clear she's completely forgotten all my affection for her, remembering only how to drain me dry and leave me to die in this apocalyptic world. The last shred of indulgence I had for her vanished completely. Glancing at my halved bank balance, I turned and headed to the nearest supermarket. I bought out all the food and drinks in stock, while everyone else in the supermarket was frantically grabbing fresh chicken, fish, and meat. I cleared out all the instant noodles, bread, and compressed biscuits, items with shelf lives of several years. My phone suddenly alerted me to a transaction, and I saw 14:30 p.m. Star supermarket meat and fish purchase 1,000 yuan, 2:35 p.m. Star supermarket roasted chicken purchase 500 yuan, 2:40 p.m. West Asia supermarket pork tenderloin and pork belly purchase 5,000 yuan. Looking at these transaction records, I smiled absent-mindedly. In my previous life, under my meticulous care, my younger sister lived a life where clothes were handed to her and meals were served to her, which led to her being spoiled by me, fully aware of everything that happened in their past life, yet lacking even the most basic common sense. They mindlessly followed the crowd and hoarding these instant foods in their previous life. There were 3 consecutive months of torrential rain leading to persistent water and power outages. Under such conditions, poultry and meat would typically spoil within just a few days, even after the government made extensive efforts to restore basic supplies. The electricity for appliances like air conditioners and refrigerators remained intermittent, rendering them practically unusable. Everyone suddenly realized that all the food they had stockpiled had gone moldy and spoiled, making it inedible, and began regretting why they hadn't stocked up more on pre-made meals. I waited until the crowd finished buying before approaching and purchased the remaining chicken, fish, and meat from the salesperson. This should be enough to last me for the first few weeks. After that, I went back to get the remaining compressed biscuits and pre-made dishes. When I saw my favorite Wujiang pickles, canned fish, canned fruits, and so on, I bought hundreds of boxes right away on the way out. They also took essentials like toilet paper. As I was about to leave the supermarket, I left marks on both the shelves and the floor to make it easier to return after the apocalypse. About 2 or 3 years after the apocalypse, the zombie virus was initially brought under control, and the government made great efforts to restore supplies using these locations as temporary distribution points. However, because of the zombies, no one was willing to risk going out for supplies unless they were starving to death. Now, with the marking, skill, and memories from my past life, I can effortlessly locate several other key supply stations and leave marks without much effort. In my previous life, my younger sister kept complaining about being tired of canned fish and wanting fresh fish to eat. I indulged her willingly, taking enormous risks to restock from supply points with this skill in my lifetime. The risks of going out are greatly reduced. So, it's my turn to fully enjoy such a wonderful life. I walked out of the supermarket with the supplies issue resolved. The next concerns are water resources and medicine in this apocalyptic virus outbreak. Even a simple cold or fever could lead to infection. And after the water and power were cut off, the water problem became even more serious than the electricity issue. Just as I was heading to the largest factory in the area, my sister sent another message. By the way, my boyfriend is coming to stay at home, too. It's raining too hard for him to go back. Sister, we finally have some time alone together. So why don't you go stay at a hotel for 3 days and not come back at night? I let out a cold laugh to keep me from going home for 3 days. My sister actually came up with such a foolish trick. Let her boyfriend, Hai-chan, move in. I thought about how in her previous life, after she was bitten by a zombie, Hai-chan never appeared again. I felt even more guilty, not only for hiding the truth, but also for almost granting her every wish. She posts on social media every day, flaunting her good life. Hai-chan regretted going to her place. She immediately begged me to let him stay, even threatening to break her leg. To calm my sister down, I had no choice but to agree and silently maintain the basic living for the three of us. Yet in her eyes, all this couldn't compare to even a fraction of her boyfriend. I quickly turned off my phone. None of this matters anymore. Since my sister turns a blind eye to others' kindness, let her and her beloved boyfriend face the test of reality together. I have more important things to do. I directly rode a shared bicycle to the largest factory in the area. There I bought the highest quality hand crank generator. I also directly found the local technician in charge of the suburban water wells and recorded his action of manually pumping water from a well. Then I went to the largest pharmacy in the area. After leaving marks on the shelves and floor, I directly bought all the special effect medicines and antidotes. The apocalypse is a breeding ground for viruses, even if you evade zombie attacks. A simple cold or fever could be fatal. So, I went back to the Chinese medicine shop to buy herbs and made sure to document techniques like tearing open herbal packets for preserving traditional Chinese medicinal materials. After coming out, I went to the skyscraper closest to the city center and rented the penthouse apartment on the top floor when the apocalypse came. The lower levels were all flooded, and those living on the upper floors were trapped at home by heavy rain due to its proximity to the administrative building. This area had the strongest armed forces and was largely spared from zombie attacks, and I directly rented the most expensive apartment. All living conditions here were the best, making it convenient for me to settle in quickly. I filled all the refrigerators at home. The delivery staff also helped me stack the supplies. After they left, I opened the floor-to-ceiling window and spread out all the herbs on the balcony. The balcony I chose is entirely enclosed with glass, so there's no worry about the herbs getting wet from rain. After doing all this, I directly activated the second skill, repeat action, on the herbs. The series of actions, including tearing the herbal packet, prompted the system to automatically portion the dried herbs for future use. Success on the first try. I quietly clenched my fist. In my previous life, my foolish younger sister only knew to use this skill to escape effortlessly, never realizing how useless the system's offerings could be. After being reborn, I gradually figured out the true wonder of the skill. Although the skill has a time limit, using it solely for manual labor can completely avoid risks. As for that hand crank generator, I directly activated the skill to repeat the motion and generate continuous electricity. I placed marks on the canned food and medicine at home. even on the fire extinguishers in the hallway, and drew a marked map in my phone's memo app. The drug issue was completely resolved, so I teleported to the edge closest to the suburbs. This was the water supply point in my previous life. I used repeat action to record the motion of manually pumping water from a hand pump. The system automatically pumped water 24/7, and the storage barrel quickly filled up. The extreme heat of the apocalypse caused stored water to evaporate and spoil rapidly, while most of the water from the supply system was filled with sediment. In such circumstances, clean, drinkable well water is an extremely rare resource. Now, this issue has been satisfactorily resolved. For the next 3 days, I ran all over the city, marking every supply station and water distribution point. Any spare time was spent visiting farms and slaughterhouses. This place has achieved full industrialization with fresh vegetables and meat available anytime, anywhere. Although the apocalypse has come, I still hope to live a better life than in my previous existence, being able to enjoy fresh chicken, duck, fish, and meat to improve my meals at any time. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, I sent a message to my younger sister and activated the skill to teleport instantly to the front door of my home. I knocked on the door, and as expected, there was no response from anyone. I deliberately called out, "Sis, are you home?" There was no response from anyone, but I knew my sister was home because the apocalypse was coming, and she literally had nowhere else to go but our house. I could even feel the marked doorknob being tightly gripped by someone. It could only be that brainless and selfish sister of mine. I sighed in front of the door, pretending to be anxious as I leaned against it to block the peephole, while secretly hiding a pinhole camera inside the lampshade in the stairwell. Only after completing all this did I pretend to leave in a hurry. An hour after I left, my phone alerted me with a blue storm warning. The sky suddenly turned dark with lightning and thunder, and a heavy downpour began. This torrential rain will completely paralyze traffic, and the news will report it by tomorrow afternoon at the latest before the storm arrived. All the household appliances and kitchen where I had pre-ordered, including the fully automatic robotic vacuum cleaner, had already been delivered. For 3 days, I've been so busy that my feet barely touched the ground, and I didn't even have time to check the surveillance. Now the new home is completely refreshed, and I'm lying comfortably on the sofa since I left home. My sister hasn't sent me any messages, deliberately creating the impression that she's not at home in reality through the surveillance. I saw her going in and out with her boyfriend, stocking up on supplies. The movers carried boxes into the house, one after another, and such a commotion quickly caught the attention of the neighbors. I saw the elderly lady living next door come out and ask my sister Jeji her home. "Your sister just came by knocking on the door earlier." My sister directed Haichin to move her newly purchased alloy window frames and waterproof ceiling panels. I heard her say, "I don't know, I didn't hear anything." The old woman's eyes showed a hint of absurdity. "You didn't hear such loud knocking just now. I saw your sister leave. The weather forecast says there's heavy rain. Where could your sister possibly go?" Haichin impatiently waved the old woman away. "What does our family business have to do with you?" The old woman fell silent. Her son, hearing the commotion, quickly poked his head out and led her back with a dark expression. "Mom, don't bother with them," locking her own sister out while keeping a man inside. This younger sister clearly has no shame. Long Judah didn't hear the gossip from across the way, while Haichin heard it, but acted as if he hadn't. I laughed. My neighbor across the hall is an old lady and her son. The man from that household often comes home drunk late at night and has even vomited at my doorstep several times. The first time I opened my door in the morning and found foul-smelling vomit at the doorstep. I went to knock on their door, but the man flatly denied it. The old woman stood by with shifty eyes and said nothing. Later, I installed a surveillance camera at my door and showed them the footage, but the family still refused to admit it. Just now when I knocked, I clearly heard movement next door, but knowing my sister was home, they didn't tell me and instead waited for me to leave before opening the door. I had already considered moving to get away from this awful family. and if it weren't for the heavy rain, I would have moved out long ago. Now, since my sister wants to monopolize my house, let them deal with these terrible neighbors. I got up to set up the grill. I sprinkled cumin powder on the skewers and took out the chilled watermelon from the fridge. While waiting for the barbecue, I casually glanced at the surveillance monitor and instantly burst into laughter. Chin, who had remained unfazed by the insults earlier, was now affectionately holding Long Jaw on his lap. The two were glued together, feeding each other grapes while sneaking in kisses and caresses. Chin said to Long Jaw, "Honey, we don't even have enough money to stock up on supplies. Why waste it on those useless metal brackets?" Long Jaw was probably coaxed into a daze and said mysteriously, "It's not enough. In the future, it won't just be about food shortages for 4 or 5 years. What's worse is," she whispered something into Chen's ear, and his expression changed instantly. "Could such a thing really exist?" Lia declared confidently. "Of course, it will appear within 6 months at most." Chen was probably frightened by what he heard, visibly scared. "Then what should we do?" Long Jaw whispered something in his ear, and Chen's eyes instantly lit up. "Baby, you actually have this kind of skill." "Of course." Long Jita directly activated the skill in front of Chen, sticking the metal window frame to the window. I just watched this foolish sister easily reveal her special abilities in front of outsiders. I roughly knew Long Jita bought these things to reinforce the house and doors, but I never expected her to be so stupid, spilling everything with just a few words. The money in the bank card wasn't much taken by Long Jita because I stopped the loss in time and the supplies she bought seemed far from enough. And besides that, she had to reinforce the house, leaving very little money left. I was just about to see what method my sister would use to get through the remaining years when, not knowing what Chin had said, Long Jaw hugged him. Her eyes brightened as she said, "Honey, you're so smart. This way, we'll have enough money." As the two were being all loved, he suddenly said, "Your sister won't suddenly show up at our door, will she?" Long Jita didn't even show any expression upon hearing my name. "Tonight's heavy rainstorm has completely blocked the roads. She has nowhere to go and definitely won't be able to come back." Right. I ate chilled watermelon while listening to her words, unable to suppress a cold laugh since my dear sister wishes me dead so badly. I'll make sure to survive just to spite her. I wonder how many peaceful days she'll last in this apocalyptic world without me around, especially now that she's exposed her special abilities. The next 6 months were extremely comfortable for me. The heavy rain indeed paralyzed the entire cities. Traffic news reports also began to cover on a small scale how the heavy rain and high temperatures were causing a virus to gradually spread. Some people even posted on social media in panic, saying the rain had washed open their doors and they had been bitten inside their homes. Rumors about zombies suddenly spread among the people. It wasn't until the media reported on the virus isolated by scientists from animals that the origin of the zombies was confirmed. Meanwhile, Long Jita faced new difficulties. Chin suddenly said to Long Jaw, "Baby, my parents have completely run out of supplies over there. I want to bring them all here to live with us. If what you said turns out to be true, our family can reunite here just in time." I noticed Long Jita seemed somewhat hesitant, just when I thought she had finally come to her senses. Chin started coaxing her with kisses and hugs, saying, "You said you don't like eating bread, right? Perfect timing. My mom can help with cooking when she arrives and my sister can take care of the cleaning. That way, you won't have to do anything and can just relax every day." I watched as Long Jeja quickly relented and agreed, completely putting my mind at ease. I thought she had finally grown a brain, but apparently not. There was already barely enough food at home. Yet, she still wanted to take in more mouths to feed. How utterly foolish. As for Chen's earnest assurance that Lia would only need to enjoy herself, I couldn't help but scoff. Soon, she would come to realize that in this world, only true family would treat her unconditionally well. Everyone else just had ulterior motives toward her. The He family came knocking at the door soon enough. I watched as Mrs. he wandered around my home, the judgment in her eyes unmistakable. He-Chen's younger brother rushed to grab supplies as soon as he entered the door. I saw him howling with hunger, so I directly tore open a roast chicken and a pack of sour bamboo shoots for him. Even after finishing these, it wasn't enough. He still wanted to eat the packaged chicken legs. Noticing Long Judah's expression, Hitch-Chin whispered, "My brother is too hungry. Anyway, we have plenty at home, so just let him eat." Darling, Long Judah was carried out of the room by him, and probably thinking the supplies were enough to last, quickly forgot about the matter. As soon as sister he sat down, she gasped heavily, "Is it safe at home? Those terrifying things outside are spreading like wildfire." Before long, Judah could react. He-Chen had already spilled the beans about her possessing special skills. "Of course, it's safe. Judah has reinforced all the doors and windows at home. Even if those things attack, Jej's place would be the most secure." I saw a flicker of panic flash through Long Jej's eyes, but it vanished quickly. "Mother," he heard about Long Judah's special ability, and greed flashed in her eyes. "This is a wonderful ability. Judah is truly a blessing for our He family." The whole family flattered Long Judah, making her instantly swell with pride. The streets were completely deserted, with no one venturing outside. Every household trembled with fear as the shadow of death quickly loomed over everyone. Yet the Long Jeja family showed not the slightest hint of panic. They ate and drank daily, consuming vast amounts of supplies. The 10th month of the apocalypse. For several days in a row, they had been eating plain, steamed buns with pickles at the dinner table, and I could tell Long Judah was on the verge of breaking down. Even during the toughest times in my previous life, I never let her eat so poorly. I could see her regret growing with each passing day, and every time she was about to explode, he stopped her. "It's true that love makes even water taste sweet." I couldn't help but laugh. I was enjoying chilled watermelon, grilling skewers, and even had the leisure to set up a hot pot. Then, I snapped a few photos and posted them on my social media. Soon after, my sister, who hadn't contacted me for months, suddenly sent me a message. "Sis, where are you?" Probably because I hadn't replied for a few minutes. Her messages were coming in more and more urgently. "Sis, I haven't been able to reach you for months. I was so worried I could die." This line made me laugh again. Long Judah hadn't sent me a single call or message in all these months. Yet, she had the nerve to say she was worried about me. "Sis, where are you? How come you're having barbecue, too? It looks so delicious. Sis, why aren't you coming home? There's no food left at home. I remember you have the marking ability. Just bring the food home directly to eat." How convenient would that be? Her tone couldn't hide the urgency. Eager to coax all the food from me, I smirked. Had this foolish little sister finally remembered the ability she'd abandoned? I replied to her, "The road is blocked. Staying outside for the night. I saw you use my card to buy supplies. Those should last you for a while." Seeing my response, Long Jita grew even more anxious. "Sis, those things aren't enough to eat. Your barbecue and hot pot look so delicious. I want some, too. Sis, it's so good that you're alive. Come home soon. We're sisters who only have each other." At this point, Long Jita still wanted to hide the fact of how many mouths I had to feed at home, even trying to play the pity card to trick me into going back. Too bad for her. I regretfully told her, "I can't go back." "Sis, I didn't mark anything at home." It even came with a picture of me devouring some explosively fragrant crayfish. The plump, tender meat looked so delicious. You could almost smell the mouth-watering aroma through the screen. Long Judge's messages grew increasingly frantic, devolving into a string of drooling and sobbing emojis. Even through the screen, I could feel my sister's despair. Long Judah now recalls how she had inadvertently cut off her own path with her own hands. How does this feeling of seeing but not being able to taste feel? "Sis, I'm so hungry. I need to eat," crying loudly. If Long Ja sent this kind of sticker in the past, I would have taken great risks to go out and find fresh ingredients for her, just like in the previous life, never letting her suffer the slightest grievance. But now, I can vividly imagine her current expression. Her face must have been filled with jealousy and resentment. Why could I eat so well while she could only gnaw on plain steamed buns? Sis, I really want to eat it. Hurry up and think of a way to come back. I want to eat, really want to eat. I replied with a laugh. No way, unless you dare to come out. I knew my sister would never come out. The fact that she chose fixed over the other two skills in this lifetime was proof enough of how terrified she was of being bitten. Sure enough, Long Jita quickly recalled the nightmare from her past life, being chased by zombies and having one of her legs bitten off. I checked the surveillance footage and, as expected, saw her face twisted with resentment. Not a trace remained of the adorable, innocent girl I remembered. My sister had long since transformed into a hideous version of herself that I no longer recognized. And indeed, that was the truth. The next day, I noticed my sister starting to stir up trouble. She directly posted the photo I sent onto the city's online forum, captioning it, "My sister's home-cooked lunch is unimaginably delicious. Does anyone know if the transportation to my sister's place has been restored? I want to go live with her and enjoy the good life." Big, smiley face, half a year into the apocalypse. Every household has been hiding indoors, and supplies are nearly exhausted at this moment. Long Jita posted the lunch I was eating, even attaching a high-definition photo of me. I was so angry I could only laugh. My brainless sister must have used more brain power in trying to ruin me than in anything else in her life. Looking at the discussions below, Long Judy had only posted it 2 hours ago. Yet the thread's popularity kept soaring. Most comments in the section were saying that these few photos provided too little information, with only one person commenting. Those who can still cook hot pot at home now are probably living in apartment complexes near the city center. It's been months and their gas hasn't run out yet. Also, the pattern of this tablecloth looks. Halfway through the comment, everyone started asking him questions, to which he later replied, "There's too little information to make a judgment for now." After a while, he sent another message. "For now, it's confirmed to be a villa area near the city center, but we can only be sure if someone has seen her." My younger sister sent me several messages in a row. "Sister, where are you now? Sis, hurry up and tell me where you are." Big smiley face. "Sis, come on, tell me." At this point, this silly little sister doesn't even bother hiding her intentions. I texted her directly, begging, "Won't make me tell you. Carrot, guess for yourself." I read through the post again and confirmed that the scope only extended to the villa area near the city center, then didn't bother with it further. After all, with zombies roaming everywhere and floods blocking the roads, even if they figured out where I live, few could actually make it here. As for the photos, I haven't stepped outside since moving here, so hardly anyone would remember what I look like. Besides, it's been almost a year since I moved here without any activity, so those below probably assume I starved to death inside long ago. I teleported with the bucket to the water fetching spot. Just as the system had drawn half the water, I suddenly sensed that the marked fire extinguisher I left at the door had been moved. I quickly teleported back, only to see through the peephole that it was a man from downstairs, probably convinced no one was home. The man was attempting to pick the lock and steal. Unfortunately, I was already prepared. Not only was this door custom-made by me, but there are also 5 internal locks inside after opening, completely sealed. Unless the door is smashed, there's no way to open it from the outside. The man struggled for a long time, but still couldn't open the door, so he eventually turned and left. Meanwhile, following the markings on the fire extinguisher, he stole. I instantly teleported to the rooftop corner where he had hidden the supplies. I didn't take anything because I know it's always best not to push people to the brink. Otherwise, extreme situations can easily arise. After returning home, I immediately activated the skill repeat action to record throwing stones, making the system throw a stone onto the rooftop every hour to warn him not to come back. For the next several days, the man was indeed too scared to come back. In the 13th month of the apocalypse, the city completely lost water and electricity, and the damp environment caused food to mold quickly. Longjeeta's food supply was gradually running out. With no new provisions in sight, I watched as she tried to mimic my technique from my past life, using her ability to glue together the moldy parts of the bread. She wanted to follow my example, but due to her lack of common sense, the mold spread even faster through the glued seams, ruining the entire bag of bread. What a useless habit! Only perfectly intact bread can stick like this. Moldy bread should be thrown away. I could already sense her losing control of her temper more and more. One day, Longja suddenly flew into a rage after biting into some dry bread and tasting wheat bran. I want roast chicken. She didn't even care about maintaining her image in front of Hai-Chin, directly snatching the last packaged roast chicken from the house. The spicy aroma of the roast chicken wafted out, and Hai-Chen's younger brother suddenly cried out in hunger, rushing forward to grab the food from Longja's hands. Misses. His screams filled the entire room. Even Hai-Chin's attempt to mediate was futile. He ended up with 3 scratch marks on his face from Longja's nails. The outcome of the fight between Longja and her younger brother Hai-Chin was the last half of a chicken leg falling to the ground. Longja hesitated for a moment, and the little boy snatched it right from her mouth to eat. Seeing the scene, I really wanted to laugh. Longjeeta, who had returned from the apocalypse, turned out to be more particular than those who hadn't experienced it. And all of this was spoiled by me. This filled me with mixed emotions. In a fit of anger, I opened a bottle of beer, paired it with 2 hairy crabs, took a photo, and sent it to my sister. The hairy crabs in the photo looked delicious with perfect color, aroma, and taste while I was eating with greasy lips. This time I directly removed the tablecloth, with the background being an A4 paper placed under a steamer. My younger sister called me directly, her voice dripping with resentment, so thick it could almost ooze juice. Sis, do you have some secret to survival? Otherwise, how do you have so many delicious things to eat? I laughed. Guess what? That sentence completely broke her defenses. I could even hear the sound of the cup hitting the ground. Where the hell are you? Longjeeta couldn't control her voice as she roared out. I chuckled softly, still saying the same line. Guess what? With that, I hung up and checked the surveillance feed. Sure enough, I saw her face twisted with rage. I shook my head. This was just the beginning. When her supplies run completely dry, she'll witness the true nature of humanity. I thought Longja was running low on supplies by now and wouldn't be able to cause any more trouble unexpectedly. She called me the next day, sincerely apologizing with a humble attitude. Sister, I truly know I was wrong. I beg you to help me, please, to apologize to me. Longjeeta even resorted to emotional blackmail. Sister, have you forgotten how much you used to do on me? Sister, you promised to support me through college. But now I might starve to death before even graduating. Please help me. Sister, I really have no other choice. Of course, I knew she had no other choice. Originally, the supplies she had stockpiled were enough for a young woman like her to survive the entire apocalypse safely. But she just had to take in her boyfriend and even brought her whole family over, adding 4 or 5 extra mouths to feed at once. Naturally, the supplies weren't enough anymore. I looked at Longjeeta on the other end of the phone, her eyes filled with resentment, yet still feigning grievance, as she spoke to me and said, My skills can't be reversed. You'll have to figure it out yourself. The system gave us these abilities. They can't be completely useless. Right. After saying this, I hung up through the surveillance feed. I could see that someone had been bitten by a zombie near Longjeeta. I believe my brainless little sister can definitely come up with a more perfect solution. The next day, I got up early to check on the herbs and found Longjeeta had posted another video. As soon as I opened my phone, she reinforced and welded the windows and door frames at home shut, proudly filming a video to share in the group. Look, I can protect against floods and zombies. Those bitten by zombies live a life worse than death every day, and the entire neighborhood is gripped by fear. The moment Longjeeta posted this video, it instantly drew attention, with some even claiming that the savior of the apocalypse had finally appeared through surveillance cameras. I watched the lively scene outside my door every day, just as someone was knocking on the door. Mother, he suddenly came out to stop them. They came up with a flawless plan yesterday to exchange food by helping others reinforce their doors and windows. If you want our judge's help, you must trade with food. The first to come knocking was, of course, the man from the neighbor across the street. When Mother, he proposed the food exchange. The old lady across the street turned pale and was about to leave. Mother, he was unafraid. It's fine if you don't want to trade, but don't regret it if you get bitten. When two mothers meet, one is bound to get hurt. The son insisted on trading with food, leaving the neighbor's old lady speechless with anger. Her son had once ventured out recklessly before and nearly got bitten. Since then, he refused to go out no matter what. The old lady claimed she wasn't afraid, but with more people getting bitten recently, she had no choice but to reluctantly offer a sandwich in exchange. Upon seeing the sandwich, Long Jita sneered dismissively. One sandwich can only seal one window at most. In the end, Long Jia welded several stainless steel pots firmly onto the old lady's windows. The man clearly wanted to say more, but Long Jita leveraged their numerical advantage. In the end, he could only glare at them fiercely before entering and locking the door tight. Soon, Long Jita started helping neighbors by fixing things in exchange for food every day, becoming the celebrity of the neighborhood. I watched as she couldn't wait to show off her abilities to the whole world, and it almost made me laugh out of countless possible methods. Long Jita effortlessly chose the dumbest one, exposing herself. She helped fix the leaking ceiling for the downstairs neighbor and received a large bag of slightly moldy bread in return. After eating bran for several days, finally having some food, my younger sister naturally treasured it like a priceless gem. Hai Chen must have said something to Mother, because she kept praising her as capable, making her even more elated. So she took out the bread to share with the whole family. I overheard Hai Chen still deceiving her, since my dear is so capable. She can surely exchange for better supplies. This bread is a bit moldy, so let's give it to my mom and the others to eat. I lay at home and the hand crank generator kept my house powered from start to finish. I took ice cream from the fridge and sent a photo to Long Jia. Long Jia went completely crazy, rallying her entire family to bully the entire neighborhood. Whenever she reinforced a household's doors and windows, she would directly go inside to pick out the best supplies. Those who disagreed were simply blocked outside by he tyrannized the entire neighborhood and soon faced retribution. Someone came to steal supplies in the middle of the night. Long Jia tried to use adhesive to seal her door and frame shut, but an earthquake at night deformed the frame, trapping her inside and nearly suffocating her. She finally escaped by breaking the window, cutting her arm on the shattered glass. The scorching heat drove her to a breakdown at home, her wounds rapidly inflaming and festering without any medicinal herbs. Long Jita finally understood fear. The despair of having a leg bitten off in her previous life enveloped her once more. Surveying the severely damaged neighborhood after the earthquake, I realized the timing was almost right. 18 months into the apocalypse, zombies surrounded the entire city, and no one dared to step outside anymore. I casually tossed away the fruit peel and answered Long Jita's video call. Sis, I got cut by broken glass, but have no medicine. It's too hot and the wound is infected. As Long Jita spoke, I was sitting on my herb-covered balcony eating ice cream, even letting her see my perfectly functioning air conditioner. Sis, you have medicine over there, don't you? You're so selfish. I'm injured like this, and you didn't even think to send me any medicine. I raised an eyebrow. It's too dangerous outside, little sister, unless you come get it yourself. Of course, even if you begged me, there's nothing I could do to help. Long Jia even lost control of her expression for a moment, revealing a vicious look. How did you do it? Why do you still have electricity there? I rolled my eyes, looking at her obviously sunken cheeks and prominent cheekbones from hunger. Guess for yourself. The humid environment could catalyze impatience in people's hearts. Just from talking, Long Jita's forehead was already sweating. I saw it, and even took an ice-cold drink from the fridge. I showed her the freshly retrieved ice-cold cola right in front of her, still fizzing with white vapor. This time, My sister's brain finally clicked. She screamed loudly. You came back too. You came back too, didn't you? I smiled and repeated the same line. Guess for yourself. Longita completely lost her mind. She stormed into my room and smashed everything to pieces. Now it's Aunt He who lives in my room. And she immediately grabbed Longita by the hair, hitting and kicking her. What madness is this? How dare you cause trouble in my territory? Longita had always been picky about food, and lately she had barely eaten anything. Weak from hunger, she was flung to the ground by Mother He, her body aching from the fall. The festering wound was scraped open, and pus spilled everywhere. Hichin rushed in. Longja reached out to him, but he ignored her and went to help his mother instead. I saw the disbelief on Longja's face. I'm tired of watching these dogs bite each other. How foolish not to see the true nature of this family, even now later. I don't know how Hichin managed to deceive Longita, but I saw her sitting alone at home, her hands clasped together anxiously. I thought the timing was about right, and as the entire hallway turned dark, I moved several large garbage bags from inside the house to the doorstep. No one noticed, but the piled-up trash began to emit a foul odor. Then, in the middle of the night, the door suddenly started making a thud, knocking sound. Longita was startled out of her wits. Meanwhile, I slowly curled my lips into a smile because through the surveillance feed, I could already see several zombies gathering outside. The door of my house was being battered by zombies, on the verge of collapsing. The Heath family showed expressions of horror because I had piled up trash all over the hallway. The stench of rotting fruit peels and meat attracted zombies. They could even hear the sound of the neighboring door being smashed open. The screams of the bitten man filled the entire hallway. Mother, he quickly pulled Longita out of the room. But Longita was still angry about what happened. During the day, Mother, he having no other choice, had to apologize to her. Jita, what happened this afternoon was my fault. Please help us quickly, or our whole family will be bitten to death. Sister, he was so scared that she hid in the room, screaming. Hichin was also scared, stiff, coaxing Longita with sweet words to take action. Longjia was equally frightened and quickly used the skill fixation to glue the refrigerator and washing machine at the entrance behind the door as barriers. I watched this scene calmly through the surveillance feed. Why did I give up my own house in the first place? Longita is simply too naive. Does she really think this can hold off the zombies? The skills granted by the system may be overpowered, but areas not reinforced by skills remain flawed. Unless she can fortify the entire house, it's completely useless when the zombies rammed the door. The rigidly fixed appliances couldn't absorb the impact, causing the door panel to collapse. Instead, in their desperate escape, the Hichin family pushed Longita out to block the zombies. She fled in panic back to her own home. But because Hichin had pushed her out without hesitation, Longita's leg was still bitten during her escape. Longita felt as if she had returned to that life or death moment from her previous life. She desperately barricaded the door with everything she could find, stopping only when there was nothing left within reach. I sensed Longita's presence near the bed through the mark. Discovering she was trapped in the bedroom, I quickly checked the surveillance footage. Seeing the zombies had left, I teleported to the front door. The neighbor's house had completely collapsed, with the only male member of the family trapped under the rubble, desperately calling for help. The living room was already in ruins, and I couldn't be bothered to care about the fleeing Hichin and his family. Stepping out of this relatively safe zone would basically mean certain death. Even if they miraculously evade the zombies, they wouldn't survive more than a month due to lack of supplies. I arrived at my room's doorway, which had been completely welded shut by Longita. I used the repeat action function to record knocking, and the system automatically repeated the knocking to simulate the sound of zombies banging on the door. The rainstorm continued to pour relentlessly, and Longita, already shaken to the core, screamed in terror inside the house. Soon she realized she was powerless, forced to watch helplessly as water seeped through the door cracks along with the growls of zombies. I used the repeat action skill to record the action of loosening the gas valve. then moved the kitchen gas canister to the bedroom and the neighbor's doorstep. But this time when I activated the skill, the recorded action failed to take effect, just like in my previous life. The skill's duration expired calmly. I picked up the lighter and similarly recorded the ignition action. Only after completing all this did I leave. Once the cool-down period passed, the gas tank valve would be slowly turned open. When that day will come depends entirely on their luck. Returning home, I had a wonderful sleep. The next morning, when I woke up and checked the surveillance, I noticed the water that had seeped in during the previous heavy rain was gradually receding. This was just like in my previous life. Despite the rain growing heavier and heavier, my home miraculously remained unflooded. This is probably another kind of divinely chosen luck. I watched the surveillance footage, and around midnight the skill was reactivated since Longita used fixation to glue the windows shut, creating an unbreakable seal once water started flooding the room. There was no way to open them to escape, and when she glued the ceiling, she also sealed the ventilation ducts by accident, cutting off airflow inside the room. I located the lighter at her bedroom door through the marker. After a night of cooling, the repeated action became effective again as the lighter gently clicked. Boom! The flames devoured everything, including the camera that recorded it all. 3 days later, the City News Network reported a sudden massive explosion in my residential area due to a zombie attack. I saw a video captured by a resident upstairs during the incident. In the footage, the Heath family frantically rushed out of the hallway only to be ambushed by a horde of zombies downstairs. The younger brother of the Hay family had his arm slashed by a zombie's claw. Mrs. He, who had initially fled, desperately grabbed her daughter and Haichin, demanding they turn back to save her youngest son. As a result, the family missed their best chance to escape during the argument and were soon overwhelmed by the zombie horde. I stretched lazily while watching the relentless downpour outside. There are still 3 years until the end of the apocalypse. Supply stations are being urgently established, while transportation routes are being vigorously restored to deliver provisions across regions. I scooped water with a ladle only to find the bucket empty. It's time for me to fetch water while waiting for the system to automatically refill my water storage bucket. I occasionally think of Long Judah, but quickly dismiss the thought in this lifetime without a sister to hold me back. I'll continue to live an even better life after listening to this story. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments section. We look forward to hearing from you.